welcome to the first one of my Wednesday evening chats. And I was thinking the other day, after a lot of conversations with my friends, some who are 20 years younger than me, but about menopause and about what we should know. Because we go through these transitions in life. We have the years of periods and all that goes with that, the pain, the PMS, the moods, the way our hormones affect us. And then often, if that's your choice, children, childbirth, that was a joy as well. And then after that, when you think everything's settling down, along comes the menopause. And oh my God, it was like a sledgehammer for me. So I just thought I'd like to share with you things I wish I'd known, things I would have done much, much sooner, how I would have dealt with it better, and where I would go for support now, because there just wasn't the support about that I felt I needed. So I'm going to start by showing you how I used to look, how it affected me, and then I'm going to come back again and we'll carry on with the chat. So as a size 8 16-year-old, I thought I was pretty invincible and I could eat absolutely anything I wanted. And this carried on. This is sort of in the 20s, bit of my dodgy modelling photos. But I really never thought it would change. And then at 35, this is when I was pregnant. And I managed to put on 4.5 stone in my pregnancy. So I'm just going to talk about my 30s first and what happened and what I would have done differently. So I think I was an old mum. In hospital I was called geriatric because I was 35 when I had my son. I had a bad pregnancy, morning sickness 24/7, and even to a week after having him I was still having the morning sickness. So definitely a hormonal imbalance going on there. And then I had quite severe postnatal depression, not in a good relationship, which ended when my son was very, very young. So I then became a single mum. And heading towards my 40s, I wish now I had dealt, one, with getting more help for the postnatal depression, two, realising what my hormones were doing to me and that I wasn't going mad, and three, I would have started addressing my diet and fitness then. Those, I think, are the most important things. And this is when we're talking about something that's going to happen to us possibly in our late 40s and our 50s. I truly believe that it should be addressed and people should be educated about it. Women should understand, but men also need to be educated about it as well, because obviously I'm not great at picking them in my life, but they're all very quick to say you're mad. Oh, she's impossible to live with, and then they throw the PMS thing and oh my God, you're always on a period, and you just think, actually, we don't want to feel like that. We just want to be understood, to heard, and to feel better in ourselves. So yes, definitely in my 30s, even though I was pretty exhausted, I was had an antique centre then, and it was open 7 days a week. So I had to have my baby in the antique centre with me. I did have to, my mum-in-law and my mum were brilliant and helped me. But again, that was a lot of pressure because I was there 7 days a week. So yeah, it was tough. But yes, definitely I would have said I would have not eaten the things I ate. I didn't eat very well at all. If anything, I wouldn't eat. And then when I did eat, it would tend to be things like chocolate. So my relationship with food at that time was about reward. If I worked really hard, then I deserve cake and I deserve chocolate. So though this probably doesn't seem very about the menopause at the minute, it's definitely a pattern I feel that can really hurt you if you allow it to go on into menopause. So now we're going to talk about the 40s. So yes, got into my 40s, still got a little one, but I was very active. I was so driven work-wise. I would get up before he woke up to do the garden, then we'd go and do a day's work, then I'd come back, wait till he was asleep, probably do some gardening. I had a horse, so the horse got exercised as well as going to work. And if I look back, I don't know how I did it. So probably another thing here, I would say, is self-care. Absolutely, without a doubt. Learn to be able to say no to other people. Learn to be able to say, I'm worth it. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to rest and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And then we talk about nourishing the body as well. So nourish yourself, and look at food again. And I was very much in that aspect then of, there was lots of bills, lots of stress, lots of worry. I'm managing it by myself, and food became a secondary. It's like the animals got fed, my son was fed and well looked after, and then if there's anything left, I'd probably have something myself. So I put myself so far down the line of who was important that I think that's when, again, real damage can be done. And it was in my 40s when the first hot flush happened. I remember I was in a shopping centre, and it was to do with my job at the time. This was after the antique centre had gone. And I just remember rushing and getting really anxious, and absolutely that feeling, if you've had a hot flush, it's like when you get put under for an anaesthetic. It starts at your toes and come up. By the time it gets to here, you're asleep. Well, in that respect, by the time it gets to here, the water or sweat is dripping down your back and your front, and you are literally a boiling hot wet mess. That's the only way I can describe it. And that happened, and I first thought, oh gosh, I must be sickening for something, I must be poorly. And nothing happened again for another 6 months, and then I had another one. And then I noticed gradually my energy levels were dropping, and they were getting worse and worse and worse. My anxiety was getting higher and higher. There were times when I would honestly say I was depressed, I was miserable, to the point of being so unhappy I didn't want to be here anymore. Now, suicidal thoughts are very different to somebody that's actually going to commit suicide, and it took me a long time to understand this. So really, when in my head I was thinking, oh, I want to kill myself, what I was really saying was, actually, I'm so unhappy, I don't want to be here, but I didn't really want to be dead. So no, I wasn't I think it's quite different to differentiate between that. But again, it's something you don't want to admit to anybody, you don't want to share with anybody. And especially when I've got a little one that's relying on me, it wasn't even an option. But often I would think those sort of things. Again, probably part of the postnatal depression, I think, as time went on, and that just became part of the whole depression scenario, if you like. When life was hard, it was very easy to sink into that. Again, wasn't eating particularly well, and I was punishing my body, and I think there's so much things as too much exercise again. So my joints were starting to ache. I felt like I was beginning to question whether I had ME or not, or I got some sort of rheumatoid arthritis, because I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. It didn't matter how much I slept, I felt really, really tired. So it was getting to I'd be about 48, and I went to see my doctor. I'm not a fan of going to doctors anyway. I'm not really one of those. I don't take aspirins, don't take anything. I'd rather deal with it and let the body work its way out. I know we're all different, but that's just me. But anyway, I went to the doctor, and I remember saying to him how I was hoping it was the menopause, because it would then make sense to some of my symptoms. And he agreed to do a blood test, and I said I just couldn't wait to get out of the whole period thing, having periods. It'd always been painful for me. I'd always had PMS, and I'd always felt rubbish. And he said to me, oh my dear, why on earth would you want to be an old hag? Because that's what you're going to be once you're through the menopause. And I just sat there gobsmacked. I'd gone for help, and I'd gone for support, and that was the attitude I got. So I just stood up and looked at him, and I walked out, and I never went back. I haven't been back to the doctors actually since then. So I then went home, and I went and found a homeopathic doctor, and that helped. But again, it was to do with the whole package, if you like. So we then go on to the 50s. So going into my 50s, yes, menopause started. I had a year of having periods that lasted 3 weeks and having 1 week off, which were heavy and draining. I was questioning myself because my memory loss was getting worse. my anxiety was getting higher, and my relationship was ending. Was it ending because of these symptoms? No, I don't think it was at all. I just think it highlighted them probably. And looking back, I should have gone and found support. This is another one, because I didn't. I was ashamed of how I felt, ashamed of all these things that were happening to me, and no, I didn't even recognise myself anymore. My weight was getting more and more and more, and in the past, as you saw, I was very skinny, could eat what I wanted. Now, even if I dieted, it made no difference. And I was starting to then go the opposite way of being frightened of food, because food for me was going to put weight on. So my idea then was to starve myself. Yeah, that was even worse. Didn't make any difference, didn't lose any weight, just made myself miserable and more tired, and it made the symptoms worse. So then I went the opposite way, and suddenly I went 10 months without a period, and I thought, yes, it's over. And then I had one. And then the next year, 11 months, and then I had one. And you're not officially through the menopause till your period's free for a year. And all that time, the hot flushes would come and go. I didn't sleep. You have brain fog, your joints hurt. But I was starting to do a little bit of research now and starting to look at the symptoms. And what I would say to you is, Google symptoms of menopause. 47 different symptoms, often mistaken for things like fibromyalgia, the ME. I'm not dissing any of them. I'm just saying, perhaps look for menopause first. And again, remember, it can start at very different ages. 51 is the average age. First thing I've ever done in my life that was average. But yes, it's amazing what it can do to you mentally and physically, emotionally, the whole package. So when I started to be on my own, that actually gave me the breathing space to start looking at diet, fitness, what I could do to help myself. I don't want to go to a doctor. I want to look at the whole holistic approach. And it was then that a friend told me about Dr. Berg. Well worth looking for his YouTube videos. His knowledge about keto is amazing. What I've discovered is, if you cut out sugar, I know, hard one, out of your diet, most of your symptoms will disappear. It was mind-blowing for me, especially because I hold my hand up, I am a sugar addict. Absolutely, without a doubt. Because of this constant, oh, life's tough, reward yourself. So I got myself into this place for so many years about rewarding myself with food. But keto, yes, it made a massive, massive difference to me. I stuck at it for 3 months and I lost 1.5 stone and started to actually feel like myself again. It helped me to sleep. Because if you don't sleep, and this is something I didn't know, if you don't sleep, you can't lose weight. It's madness, I know, but look into that, trust me, it's the truth. So first of all, start with caring for yourself, slowing down, resting, sleeping, and that will help. The joint pain disappeared completely. And that was a huge thing for me because everything ached. So many times people tell you this is a natural part of aging. This is how you should feel. This is how No, it's not. And by addressing our hormones and addressing what we eat, we do actually start to feel better. So that was a big one for me. But then I went off the rails because I'm an idiot. I'm human. And every now and then I go, oh, I want to eat cake with my friends. And yes, there are keto cakes. Yes, there are lots of things, but you have to be super organised. And then once you fall off the wagon and you go back onto it, then you become tired again. Then you don't sleep again. And then that vicious cycle starts going and going and going. So yes, I do know that that was a big one for me. And then I heard of Dr. Mindy Pelz, an Australian lady, and she has a fabulous book called The Reset Factor and Fasting for Girls, and one about menopause as well. I'm going to do some links in the comments, in the description below, because I truly believe she just gave it an extra edge from a woman's perspective. And it's also very good because her fasting for girls, it actually takes you back to, 20s, 30s, 40s, all those problems that you have, say, to do with periods, to do with PMS, to do with your hormones. She helps you to reset those, to get this a balance in your life. And trust me, I believe that if I'd have had the knowledge I have now when I was that age and had followed that, I wouldn't have any symptoms and I would have just sailed through my menopause. So one of the reasons this came up for me personally was because the last 2 or 3 months I've been really struggling with food again. Rain, the winter, my circumstances, living in such a tiny little room, I don't get the exercise that I should do. Then I feel sorry for myself, or I make an excuse and going out with my friends, let's have coffee and cake. And I've fallen off the wagon again. And I saw a picture of myself. And I thought, do you know what? Your joints are starting to ache again. You haven't been sleeping. You know what to do. So I will be going back onto my keto. I'm going to be looking at fasting. And these are things I'm going to be sharing over the next few chats, if you like. So things that have affected me. And if you've got any questions, I'd love to hear from you. And if this is relevant in any way to you, please like, share, let's have a chat about it. But until next week, thanks for listening.